Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Gavel Gang Podcast, an insight into the collections we get here at Eubanks Auction House in Surrey.
Welcome everybody, I'm here today with Korda Marshall, and we're here in Eastcote Studios?
Eastcote Studios.
Eastcote Studios. Thank you very much for having us here today, Korda. Korda Marshall, you are, I guess, often referred to or known as the A&R man's A&R man. Would that be a fair
I've heard that before somewhere, a long time ago. I used to know a lot of A&R men. I've employed a lot of A&R men.
Yeah, and so some of our audience will be, I guess, auction buyers more than they will be working in the music industry. What is A&R? Can you explain it in simple terms?
Sure, A&R, artist and repertoire.
Okay.
So in the old days, you'd find the artist, and then the A&R man would find the repertoire, the song, and they'd match the song with the artist in the piano and scrolling days and right up through. And effectively, you're the man who chooses the artists that are signed by the record labels or the publishing companies, and you then help them make their records. So you find the producers, help the studio, book the studios. So I kind of produce producers, if that's why I exec produce a lot of records. And really the A&R process is about finding, discovering, signing, and then making the records and the albums, and then managing them through the company. So in a big record label, it's then just like a project manager, putting them out everywhere through the press, promotions, marketing, starting with the business affairs and legal, and then in the context of kind of when it's your own company, it's doing all of those functions with a small little team of people that you've got, or hiring as external consultants. But fundamentally, you're finding the talent, making the music and releasing it to the public.
And is this something you knew you always wanted to do from an early age?
When I was 13, I saw Bowie at Ziggy Stardust last show at Hammersmith Odeon, and the magazine that you bought, the brochure was Main Man Presents David Bowie.
Wow.
And I found out about Main Man organisation and realised that there was a production company behind.
So would that have been early 70s?
So 1973.
73, right.
And then, long story, but one of my family had a relationship with my sister was going out with Deep Purple's tour manager, who told me at a very early age that the artists are on 14 or 15% and the record companies are on 85 or 86%. So I worked out quite early on that the money and the power all goes to the people who own the recordings. And I knew I wanted to get into music, but I didn't really know how or where I went. So that was 13, 14. And then, 21, I got a job as a talent scout copy maker. So 1981, 82. I got a job as a talent scout coffee maker, tape copier, RCA Records.
So I read somewhere you were a drummer as well, is that right?
I was a particularly bad drummer. Ringo Starr, no timing. And I was in a band from leaving art college. So I studied art, went to art college 78 to 81. And then 81, 82, I kind of got into the industry and toured with the Bunnymen and The Cure and Peter Gabriel. And then got to know managers and agents and got to know people in the industry from that. And then when I left the band called 01, I walked out in the middle of the Peter Gabriel tour, Musical Differences. And I left and wrote a lot of letters. I ended up getting a job as a talent scout tape copy at RCA Records. A guy called Peter Robinson gave me the first job. And then over the years, the first act I found there was there were number 42 on a list of 40 artists. Nobody, the A&R man had signed them and left. They were called the Blow Monkeys. So I helped the Blow Monkeys make their first proper album, and we had a song on there called Digging Your Scene. And I think there's acetates and test pressings of Digging Your Scene in the collection. That was the very first successful record I had. And then I went on to, in 10 years, I kind of got promoted every 2 years by having more hits and signed. From the Blow Monkeys to Westworld, Sonic Boom Boy, and then I worked with Dave Stewart and the Eurythmics. And I signed London Beat with him, and then we signed The Wedding Present and Pop With Itself and the Primitives. And then the last, I was head of A&R, and we didn't have any pop bands, so I wanted to sign a pop band. And I just hired a guy called Nick Raymond to be my senior A&R guy. And so we signed together a band called Take That. And when it failed, after 3 singles, and we spent about £750,000, I, after 10 years, got marched out of the company.
Right.
He went on to become head of A&R and had a very successful career, and he's a lovely man.
Yeah.
But I got fired.
Right.
So that was my entry.
So people listening might think, well, what do you mean it didn't work out with Take That? But the first couple of singles didn't land?
First 3 singles all stiffed.
Right.
I was the one who said, let's do a cover, let's do... it was a producer, really famous producer, who was brilliant, Ian Levine. We said, we need some cover songs, because their songs... The 3-track demo, which I think's in there somewhere, had 1 million love songs on it. Yeah, right. And I just thought, Take That and Party, 1 million songs. And I just thought 1 million love songs was a great song. Yeah. But we suggested they did the Tavares track, It Only Takes a Minute Girl, and the Barry Manilow track.
Right, right.
And
so you left RCA then. You were asked to leave.
10 years successful career at RCA,
right,
and then marched out on a Friday night by security.
Right. Did you ever get an apology? And actually, that was the right call.
No gold watch or anything. No.
Right. No. So where did you go after RCA?
Well, I thought I'd walk into another record company job quite easily, but I was known as I was too close to the artists.
Okay.
I think was the phrase. There were other phrases used, but I think that I started my own company called Infectious Music because I couldn't get a job, and I had 2 young kids and what have you. I signed a very young band. Firstly, I signed a band that I signed at RCA called Pop Will Eat Itself.
Yes, of course.
Put their 3rd album out.
And we've got some of their bits in the sale as well.
We've got a lot of, we've got test pressings in our states with Poppies. They were great. They were way ahead of their time, kind of sampling UK hip hop band. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. And then I found an amazing artist called from Northern Ireland called Ash.
Yes.
They were 15, 16 at the time, so I signed them.
Yeah.
And then I found a brilliant band from the West Country. I used to live in Cornwall, so I knew the Cornish Devon studio. So I found about Muse. So I signed Muse when I was 17.
Yeah. And again, lots of Muse, lots of Ash.
Lots of Muse. And then Paul Oakenfold was a friend, so we did the Perfecto records. Yeah. I sold half of that company, Infectious, to an Australian company called Mushroom.
Okay, yes.
I ran the UK mushroom business. And out of that, I found an artist from Australia called Peter Andre. Yeah, right. We had 4 number 1s with him. Yeah. We also signed a band where I knew the singer. I tried to sign a band called Goodbye Mr. Mackenzie many years ago, and the 16-year-old backing singer was called Shirley Manson. Right. So when she joined Garbage, we signed Garbage. Yeah. And basically, we used all the money that Peter Andre made, the success of Peter Andre paid for the investment in Ash and Muse and Garbage and Oakenfold, Perfecto. Right. And that we grew that company from a £3 million business to a £28 million business.
So it's a real mix of rock and pop, really, that you've had.
I love. I mean, ultimately, it's the Who, the Clash, the Stones.
Okay, yeah.
I was never really a Sex Pistols fan. I was a Clash fan. Okay. I was never a Beatles fan. I was a Rolling Stones fan.
Right, yeah.
And the Who, I grew up with Pete Townsend, and I went to all their shows when I was a teenager. So all that nihilism and the kind of context of proper rock and roll. Yeah. I was 16 in '76, so I saw the Clash play at Acklam Hall. I saw, as a punk, I didn't get my ears pierced and my nose pierced, but I was around punk and new wave. The Lurkers and the Lurkers from Fulham
and like some big American bands that you're into. Is it things like New York Dolls, or is that not really?
I remember the New York Dolls playing. I tried to get into New York Dolls. They played at Bieber upstairs at Bieber. Right. 14, 1974. I couldn't get in because I was underage. Right. But Neil Dolls are great. No, I mean Velvet Underground was. Lou Reed, early Velvets. There's some great Velvet Underground.
So was Lou Reed? He was on RCA, was he? Back in.
I met Lou Reed a couple times when I was.
Was he nice? They say don't meet your heroes, so I don't know.
No, he was all right. Actually, he was with Laurie Anderson. I met him in a reception in the hotel reception in LA, in Montreal once, and said who I was, and he was. Oh. And then I actually had a lunch with him in. Staying at the Ritz in London when he was playing at the Brixton. That was amazing.
Fantastic.
I was very, when you could do meet your heroes. I mean, I'm lucky to have met an awful lot of great artists. I was very low key, very humble, I did a lot of research on them. I kind of knew their catalogue numbers. So
I was interested in what you just said a minute ago. So at RCA, maybe they thought you were a bit too close to the artist,
to the talent. Don't get close. I was taught very early on, all artists are bastards. Don't get close to the talent. Yeah. Retain your integrity, stay away from the musicians. And obviously, as an ex-musician and somebody who's kind of integrity is relatively important in life.
Well, I think you've maybe proved them wrong with that. So do you think it's what's the thing that really helped you throughout your career? Was it the kind of the close relations you had to people?
truth and honesty and transparency.
Okay. Yeah.
Trusting my emotions. I mean, I've made £1 million decisions because the hair on my arms goes up.
Right. Okay.
You know, so I trust my instincts. I trust my emotional.
Yeah.
I don't intrinsically. Accountants and lawyers, I have issues. You know.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm the client.
Yeah.
Keith Richards would never let anybody who was a non-musician into the studio.
Right. Okay.
And I've tried to stick by that really. So accountants should add up.
Yes. Yeah.
And lawyers should take instructions.
Yeah.
And music companies and music people should be controlled and run by music people.
Have you found at independent labels that's easier to achieve?
When it's your own company, you can tell people what to do.
Yeah. Okay.
When I'm working in a big major glass and steel major record label, the accountants and generally the lawyers get me in the end.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And that's happened 3 times really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that or it's the CFO, the finance guys, because
yes,
I spend a lot. I'm successful because I spend a lot of money becoming successful.
Yes.
And then once that makes a lot of money, then the lawyers drop. You know, the accountants and lawyers' job is to make more profit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not really interested in profit.
So when you started out, sort of Infectious, was it more that, I have to do this because this is what I do, or did it feel like an opportunity, or you were kind of pushed into that situation?
When I started it, I kept pinching myself. I was getting paid to go to gigs.
Right.
I mean, I was going to 3 or 4 shows every night.
Yeah.
7 nights a week.
Yeah.
Traveling all around the country, seeing bands. You know, I was at every single gig I could make.
Yeah.
When I started signing acts, I couldn't believe it. When I started making records and having hits, it was like, wow, you know, pinch me. I was going to festivals and seeing things. And my acts were playing at festivals. We were enjoying ourselves and having a lot of fun, and that attracted other people to have fun, and the records were good. I've generally learned in life to say yes to creative people.
Right.
If you say no, the door comes down and things don't happen.
Okay. Yeah.
When a musician or a producer's got a stupid idea, if you say yes, you know, sometimes greatness happens and madness happens, and you go, wow, that was brilliant. So I signed Psychic TV to RCA Records.
Right. Okay, yeah.
And everybody went, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know,
Right.
They were on Top of the Pops.
Yeah,
and, When I wanted to put out a song a month by The Wedding Present, which again, there's a lot of those in the collection. Everybody at RCA was shaking their heads to say, what are you doing that? You know, but they were on Top of the Pops every month. So I like, if there's a rule, I think we should break it.
Okay, yeah. And how has the industry changed? I guess what you hear a lot is that there's a lot of money in live, but has that negatively impacted the recording side of the business?
Well, in the old days, you would tour, and the big moment would be releasing the album. And, you know, when albums were, you know, £6, £7, £8.
Yeah.
In those days, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
But artists weren't getting paid a lot of money for their shows.
Yeah.
So the whole paradigm shifted. Now, an artist needs an album so they can go out and do the tours to make the money.
Is the album still as important to the artist as it was?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, we're in the single track economy. The art, you know, from when I started, it was acetates. I mean, my first hit in America, Digging Your Scene, I got told it was a hit on a telex from RCA from New York. You know, your record has just gone to number 11 in the charts. You know, there were no mobile phones, there were no computers. I was the tape copier. I had to copy 120 tapes every hour and make the tea and coffee for the artists when they came in. So from where that is now to, you know, streaming, socials, you know, the radio and television were really important. Making a video was really important. Having remixes. A lot of that's fallen down, by the way. So, but you know, if you've got 3 minutes of great music, then that attracts people. If you've got a great song, when I signed Crazy by Niles Bartley, that was the song of the year that year.
Right, yeah. So that Niles Bartley was someone you discovered, and that was
that was my biggest song of the year.
So would you have found that song and thought, well, this is it. I've heard something. It's already there. I know it's great. Just from like a demo, or
a lovely man who I was trying to get. I flew into New York. I was trying to get him to be my head of A&R. So I was the managing director of Warner Brothers at the time.
Right, okay.
And I was trying to get him to be my head of A&R. He went on and formed a company called Downtown, which was phenomenally successful. I flew into London and I said, bring the music you think you'd want to sign. So he turned up I flew him in, put him on a hotel, we had lunch, sat in the afternoon, and I said, well, we'll have a music session, playing some music, an A&R meeting. He pulled out a 3-track CD by a guy who, he said, you'll know this guy. Well, you might know him, but he's called Danger Mouse. And I said, oh, okay, I think I know Danger Mouse. And he had the white album, the black and white album, the bootleg Beatles. And he put the song on, and it was crazy. Dum, 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 da-da-da-da-da. The test pressing of that's in there.
Okay,
in the collection. And I'm, you know, within the first minute and a half of hearing that song, the hairs on my arm jumped up.
Right.
And sadly, he was too expensive for me to employ. But I signed the band, and he signed them to America to his label Downtown.
Right.
He was called Josh, amazing man. And so that was the story how I found that, and it was a pretty instantaneous. And then we put it out. It was the first record to ever go to #1 without physical sales.
Right.
It was a download only sale.
Okay. Right.
And the truth of that is the production department at RCA had mucked up the delay.
Okay.
So we didn't have the records made in time to release the record, and it was such a hot record.
Right.
Because I was the MD at Warner's, I just said, well, let's just release it anyway and be the first download. We went on the news at 10. We put a whole load of big promo on it.
Right.
And it was one of the biggest records of the year that year.
Wow.
Crazy by Niles Bartley.
So was that streaming, or I guess it's pre-streaming. So
pre-streaming. This was downloads.
Right. Where you
amazing
were charging.
singer called CeeLo.
Okay.
And a phenomenal, for Danger Mouse was a phenomenal artist.
Yeah. And I guess in that time now, we're finding at auction, vinyl records have made a big comeback, and from what I see,
well, that's why I'm finally selling all my vinyl records. Now's a good time to sell them. At the moment, they've been in boxes for 20 years, 10 years, 15 years.
Right.
I want them to be enjoyed. I've got there's 48 boxes of records in there. There's some amazing music. I'd like people to listen to it and hear it. There's all genres, all very collectible records, mainstream records, pop records, rare records, obscure formats. So it's silly them sitting in a box for no one's listening to them, no one's enjoying them. Now's a good time. I just think it's a shame to not have them being enjoyed by everybody.
So you've got a mix in there. We've got as you say, fantastic collection of vinyl. We've got some music memorabilia. There's a surfboard.
Red Hot Chili Peppers surfboard.
Yeah, the surfboard.
Stadium Arcadium surfboard.
Lots of gold, silver, platinum discs.
Yeah.
How important were they at the time to you in terms of
they're the war trophies.
Yeah.
So if you hang them on your wall, I mean, I never put them on at the home. I never put them on the wall at home.
Yeah.
I know quite a few people had big bathrooms. They put them in there. The first few you get are really important. I'm blessed and lucky. I've got over 150 gold platinum discs. So I'm not selling them all. I'm keeping the most important ones.
Sure.
The Darkness from Finland's double platinum record, or James Blunt from So I don't need to keep all of them. They're just they're sitting in boxes in storage. So I'd rather they were on the wall being looked at or being seen.
Being enjoyed.
And I'm very proud of them. They're amazing. But I'm keeping the big Madonna ones, or the big Muse ones, or the big Eurythmics ones.
Of course,
but the English discs and the American discs, but everything else I'm selling. And the memorabilia is quite special. I mean, there's a American Idiot Green Day drum kit that was a promo item. There's a little thing of shot glasses from Warner's that have got Metallica and every little shot glasses. There's the Chili Pepper surfboard. So all of that's kind of, again, it's silly. It's a shame for that not to be used. That surfboard's never been surfed on.
No surfing. You never took it to Cornwall and surfed on. There's a fantastic collection of things there, and as you say, if they're sat in a box, then they're not being enjoyed, are they? So,
no, that's right.
So we've got the auction at Eubanks on the 29th of April. It's sure to get a lot of interest. There's already lots of people interested in watching the lots. People could bid online, eubanks.co.uk. There's a live sale. You can watch the auction live online. Is there anything from amongst it all that you were a bit like, well, I'm not sure, should I keep hold of that? Or was this all stuff you decided, is there anything?
They're selling my Bowie collection.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got quite a lot of, I've got another Bowie collection quietly at home that I'm keeping as well.
Yeah, of course.
That was tough. Selling the Stones collection. I think some of the bigger platinum discs, the old Dre platinum discs. I've got the multi-platinum discs, but I'm selling the platinum discs.
Of course,
and so some of those are quite emotionally important. But you have to let go, and then I haven't got walls big enough to put them all on. I've enjoyed them. It's been in a box for 10, 15 years, and if people can enjoy them, then it's the right thing to do.
Alt J obviously winning a Mercury Music Prize. Is that the sort of thing when you go to that night, you don't know who's going to win? You have no idea. You just wait for the decision.
We had, with the very fact we were sitting at the very front row, and we had to pay 2 tables, which cost me $7,000 a table.
Okay, yeah.
So I paid £14,000 to get in the room that night with me and my 2 teams.
Right, yeah.
So I had an inclination that something was good, but I didn't know that we were good. Well, the Mercury's are voted for at the very end of the performances, so you don't actually nobody knows. Right. Even the judges don't know until after the dinner. But I was told quite loudly I needed to pay for the tables to get the band, and the band were obviously there, and my partners in the business were there. Quite a lot of media were there, and the people who'd helped me make the success that the label were there.
And at that point, that's a guaranteed sales boost. I mean, I used to go into our price and HMV and you see the sticker and you think, I'll give it a go. And sometimes in the old days, you'd buy stuff just because you like the artwork.
By winning the Mercury Prize, we went from 30,000 sales to 80,000 sales in that month following.
Wow. Yeah.
But those kind of shows, on the Brits. I mean, I was a member of the Brits. I did a lot of industry work, so I was on the BPI board.
Okay, yes.
I was on the Brits board.
Yeah.
I'm still on the official chart companies, on the board that owns the charts.
Yeah.
And when the Darkness won all those awards at the Brits, we quadrupled the sales. The album went from gold to double platinum.
Yes.
When Muse won Best Live Band 3 years in a row, they played at the Brits Awards.
Yeah.
So whether it's the Mercury's, the Brits, the Enemies, the Music Week Awards, if you market the music around those awards, it's just a big spotlight coming onto the songs, and then you can mirror that. And in the days of sales, obviously the sales would jump up. In the days of streaming, when you have a big success now, your streams automatically double or quadruple overnight if you win an award.
Yeah. Who's been the sort of biggest joy to work with?
Oh goodness, so they've all been brilliant. All of the artists. I mean, the ones you never hear of are the ones that don't succeed. And that's disappointing. And I've for every one of the successes, there's probably one or two that haven't been. So my ratio is quite high, but certainly a 1 out of 3 has been successful. I think the industry average is about 1 in 7 as an A&R person. But I'm proud of them all. I think working with Dave Stewart was really special.
Of course, in
I think obviously Ash and the early days of Ash, Muse and Matt Bellamy and and Matt Bellamy and that band are amazing. And I think. In each stage, there's been certainly the early days of RCA, the Blow Monkeys and the Primitives and Wedding Present, but Dr. Robert was crucial. In Infectious, Temper Trap were important. All J was important. Muse were important. In Atlantic, I worked with James Blunt. I had a lot of success with Jet. I started a dodgy rock band who were brilliant. Justin and the Darkness.
Okay,
they were quite special. The pop acts, I've loved pop. I grew up with pop, so being in the room and being part of the success with Rick Astley was pretty amazing. The Peter Andre phenomena was amazing, and to be in the middle of that whirlpool. Remember the day he came out from I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. We put Mysterious Girl out for the second time re-release and went back to number 1. So Peter Andre was amazing. And I'm
came across as a lovely guy as well.
He is a lovely guy. He's a lovely guy, and he's good for really good guy. And so the context of all of the artists that I've worked with, the Australian artists, the DMAs, and the young new British acts that we've kind of championed over the years. Whether it's kind of the dance side, or the rock alternative side, or the pop and the mainstream side, or the American, I worked with, Michael Bublé was pretty special. I learned a lot with Michael Bublé. I learned awful amounts with Red Hot Chili Peppers and Green Day. But all of the acts I've tried to have an open mind with, and I've only really worked with people I like. I stopped many years ago. I stopped working with idiots, and I try to steer away from the darker side and the hate side, and I only work with positive, lean forward, can-do, creative people.
Obviously, there's a reputation, I suppose, that sometimes bands, rock and roll bands in particular, are going to be wild and they're going to be having parties and drugs and
There's
things.
Quite a few of that.
Was that something that I don't know, did that get in the way ever of your relationships?
Yeah, sometimes. I've had artists who drop their needles from their heroin addiction on the floor in my office.
Right.
And I've dropped them straight away the same day.
Okay,
I've had other artists that have had, should we say, enjoyable drugs that they enjoyed when the creative process. You kind of encourage that sometimes. Thelonious Monk and Miles Davis, some of the most amazing music they've made have been. I'm not a clean and serene, puritanical. So alcohol. I don't really like the drugs that kill people. But the party vibe and the alcohol vibe and the drug vibe is part of. I think sex, drugs, and rock and roll
goes in hand.
Left these days, but I think culturally, emotionally, communicating songs and moods. And when you're in that rock and roll context, those people live in. I don't like it when sometimes people die from those things. So there's less of that now. And you know, at the moment, you know, most teenagers are in the gym on a Friday night now, which I find tough. My Friday night was out partying every weekend. But controlled partying is important, I would say.
And obviously for us at auction, the physical product is everything. And I guess historically in the music industry, it's always been that way with pressing records and things. Has that changed now in the sense we talked a bit about the streaming and the download culture? I remember when Radiohead put out that thing, it was choose how much you're going to pay us for the download. And now everyone's got Spotify, so they're all streaming things. We find anyway in our business, there's a lot of nostalgia. People are they want to go back to either the old video game they used to play, the old comic that they used to read, the old record they used to listen to, and they'll come back in that way. Are you finding the physical sales are sort of picked up a bit? Or?
Yes, I mean CDs are making a comeback, which is really interesting. And there's some great CDs in my collection just sitting in boxes. I've got all the different formats of all the CD singles from the various artists out there. Vinyl's just a format that won't die. And people are still, you know, and you go into Paul Smith's shop and there's a lovely vinyl there. You go into, there's a healthy, I'm a member of something called the Independent Vinyl Retailers Association, which has, you know, dinners 3 or 4 times a year. There's an awful lot of really good independent vinyl shops around the country. The second-hand vinyl's downstairs in the basement. The new vinyl, Taylor Swift, 4 different colours of vinyl, and record store day. Record store day is important. Kind of, you know, going in. I used to remember we used to talk about what the vinyl smelt like. You know, and going into those record shops, and you know, now record player sales are up, vinyl sales are up, and that's to help. People want to physically hold things in their hands. I mean, 35% of vinyl doesn't ever come out of its wrapped sleeve. It's kept and put on a shelf. But that's fine too. A lot of people listen and stream and download.
And we've noticed that. I mean, we've noticed VHS tapes and cassettes.
Well, there's quite a few VHS tapes from.
You've got some, and you've also got some really unique stuff in this auction, including original demos. I guess these are the ones that were sent to you, including some of the bands that did make it and some of the ones that didn't.
Well, there will be somewhere in those boxes. There'll be demos of almost every band I've signed. And there'll be demos of songs that were never put on records. Obviously, you've got no right to release those commercially.
Of course,
but you can listen to them in your own privacy of your own home or what have you. No, there's some. I mean, I squirreled away every record that I released, and most of the artists I work with, I kept all of the demo tapes or CDRs or reference points. And there's some great demos in there.
You're still very much working in the industry, of course. Do you think you get to a point where you think, well, I'll kind of pack it in, I've had enough? Or you seem like you're loving it. So.
No, I'm really enjoying it. I've just spent 4 years making the new Blondie album with Debbie and Chris and Clem, bless him. Clem passed last year. That's a phenomenal record. And I still love making records and helping producers and artists. I've just spent 1.5 years with Trevor Horn making the most amazing Block Party album, which is coming out this autumn. I've got some great. We've got a young Mancunian poet called Anthony Smarowicz. I've just signed Joe Newman, the singer in Alt J. We've got some really great music. There's a Temper Trap album, a new Temper Trap album that's working in America. So no, I belong in the studio really, and that's the context of helping the overview and the environment for which the creatives can really make their best performance and are relaxed and then bringing that music to for sale into the market and to media and what have you in the right way. And to be honest, I can't still believe I'm on the pitch. I mean, I'm not working for big major record labels. I work very closely with Mushroom. I also work with a big management company, ACC War Power. I've got my own label, Contagious, and I'm on a board of a few companies like the OCC. So. Compared to having 400 staff and 58 artists, I haven't really got a proper job.
What do you think about the buyers of these bits and pieces? You mentioned it going into new hands and being passed on. I mean, there's sort of a legacy here of your things, and you're not selling everything you own, but you're selling lots of things. But do you hope these go to end users, if you like, people who are big fans of, be it Alt J, Ash?
I hope that's where they belong and deserve, to be with, somebody who really is a big fan of an artist can own. Have a deeper, richer experience, and if they own the demos to the album that they really loved, or the original artwork, or the acetate of the song that they bought, 20 years ago, and those are all there. And like I said, I want them to be enjoyed by the fans of the music. I'm not really selling them for dealers to buy them and mark them up and sell them on for bigger prices. I hope to get a fair price for them. I'm not really doing it for the money. I'm doing it just so that I don't have to sit in a box and be lost and forever. This way they can be out, they live and breathe, and people can enjoy them.
And they're going to be scattered all over the world because we have buyers from everywhere.
I hope so. Well, I've got a few people from LA and New York who've phoned up and said what time of day is it, and they're going to be some specialists, and they're collectors. So I'd much rather that collectors and fans buy them. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Lots of people, when they sell their collections with us, be it whatever industry they're in, they do it at the point of when they retire. Did you think about that, or did you think? Do you know
I've tried to retire 3 times.
Have you? Okay.
I'm really enjoying making music. The music industry forever changes.
Yeah.
Right now, it's on the edge of a further set of whole scale changes. We're in the epoch of the algorithm.
Okay.
The socials. I'm a big believer in Gen Alpha.
Right.
Gen Z and Gen the millennials have not had a great life because of the phone problems and the other issues of learning, and phones are dangerous things in the hands of teenagers. I think now Gen Alpha's got IRL is a big thing in real life.
Right. Yeah.
These are all what I'm selling are things you can physically hold, that you can touch and smell and play and enjoy. So I think that's important, and we're it's the change of a different cultural context.
Do you think? I mean, you've got kids, and obviously they're a bit older and so on now. But do you think that is the real change now with this new generation? They've been brought up on phones. I've got kids as well. I've got a 19-year-old and a 12-year-old, and phones are like an omnipresent thing. But do you think there's a bit of a reaction to that amongst kids that they want to get
without
out
a doubt, yeah. Gen Alpha's got a whole different approach to things. They ring each other, they write letters.
Right.
They don't leave voice notes for each other. They're in real life, it's kind of important to them. They don't like the algorithm. They don't want to be told what to buy.
Right.
They want to be experiencing their own things. They listen to. They're not really in favour of their older brothers and sisters. They want to discover their own things for themselves. And I've got faith in that. But culture changes and environments change, and the way music's listened to, and the way it's all very different. It's very different now. Now I'm in my 60s. It's very different to how it was when I was in my teens.
Okay.
And it will be different in 10, 50 years. So one of the secrets of being successful in music is always being ahead of the curve. And taking risks and leaning into changes.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute joy to chat to you. Thank you so much for inviting us here to this creative hub that you've got here, and we're really looking forward to the auction at Eubanks on the 29th.
It's helping me put all those 48 boxes into shape. And helping compile and coordinate and curate all of that.
No.
And I just hope they get enjoyed and looked after, and that people discover things in there.
They will.
And enjoy them.
And it's been a joy to do it. And we're on view as well that whole week of the sale, so people can come down. They can physically. We were just talking about getting your hands on stuff. You can come and have a look at it in person, buy it, and then enjoy it for the rest of your life.
Thanks. Thank you so much
for chatting to us, Korda.
Thank you. Lovely.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Gavel Gang Podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard, please subscribe and take a look at the Eubanks website for more information on this and upcoming auctions. Until next time, going.